how about Captain Crunch's Crunch Berries with breakfast?
Whoa, Dad, we're on
Crunch Island. He's Jean Foot.
And he stole our crunch.
Quick, the zip line.
He's getting away.
Throw our last Crunch Berry.
No!
No one steals my Crunch Berries.
I think you mean my crunch berries. Choose your own crunch venture with Captain Crunch.
Thompson Robinson heaving one down the sideline, and he's got Cassie.
You're listening to the Bruin Bible. This is your host, Will Decker, bringing you UCLA football content all throughout the year for LA Football Network.
What is up, and welcome to another edition of the Bruin Bible. Will Decker, your host. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing the podcast. We are brought to you guys today by our advertisers. Our advertisers are Bell to Bell Fitness, Shea Tor, a realtor out in Arizona, former Bruin alum, and my main man Howard Chang, a realtor right here in Los Angeles. Let's go through them, guys. Bell to Bell Fitness is a boxing gym on the West Coast, used by their FIT acronym, Fight Inspired Training. My main man, Tony Gonzalez, was the boxing coach for UCLA for over 10 years. He has built this gym on the West Side to learn how to boxing, stay in shape, and get you all the essentials you need to become somebody that is obsessed with boxing and fitness. Make sure to check it out. Go into Bell to Bell Fitness and say you heard about it from the Bruin Bible, and you're going to get a free session with Tony Gonzalez. So make sure to check that out. Shea Tor, my main man. Shea Tor is a licensed real estate agent in Arizona and a lifelong Bruin. He's a current Wooden Athletic Fund donor and football season ticket holder. When not selling houses or going to UCLA games, he loves to travel the country, checking out different arenas, ballparks, and stadiums. If you're looking to make the move to Arizona or know someone who is, please reach out to our loyal friend, Mr. Shea Tor. His phone number is 602-487-3975. Once again, his number is 602-487-3975. Make sure to check that out. And then the local realtor we got out here, Howard Chang. Howard Chang is a local realtor with the Serene team at eXp Realty. Their team has an office right here in Culver City, though they help clients buy and sell homes all over the LA County and the surrounding areas. Howard and his team do a ton of business and are super in tune with the market, knowing winning strategies to give their clients a competitive advantage, have amazing vendor referrals, are a one-stop shop for anything real estate, and just provide a ton of value for their clients. Howard and his partner, Kyle Draper, are UCLA alums and a huge fans of the UCLA football and basketball programs. You often see them at games, tailgating and networking, and staying involved with the UCLA alumni community. They would love to help any fellow alumni with accomplishing their real estate goals. So if you guys have any real estate needs in the LA area, look no further. Howard is your guy. All right. What is up, and welcome to the latest edition of the Bruin Bible, brought to you by Bet Online and Athletic Greens. A somber one, madman, as the great and powerful Bill Walton, unfortunately passed away this morning, 71 years old, and just his impact and what he brought to UCLA, and, even after his playing career, what he meant to so many different people. I mean, we saw the outpouring of love and support for what this guy meant to so many people, and I won't mention who, but I was messaging some UCLA basketball people today, and their hearts were just torn up. Just the fact that they pretty much Uncle Bill is what they would call him, passed away in different certain circumstances. Madman. I mean, you're a UCLA alum, your dad, UC alum, was there, around the same time Walton was there. What is kind of the mood around Westwood and everything going on today, man? Because it is a sad one to say the least when I'm talking about the great Bill Walton, leaving this earth today.
Yeah, no, for sure, Will. It's, one of the truly iconic Bruins, really in every sense of the word. Just athletic excellence. He had a social consciousness. He had such a unique personality. He cared genuinely about people, and he was eccentric in his own beautiful way. That engaged so many, and so many dimensions that make up what it means to be a UCLA Bruin. We're all very sad today. And, it's ironic, Will, you said 71 years, 71 years young, I would say. It's that's not a lot of time necessarily on this earth, but he lived such a full life that, in that 71 years, he was able to pack so much. Obviously there was the athletic piece where I think unquestionably he was the second greatest college basketball player of all time behind Kareem. Obviously, he was there right during the time my dad was there at UCLA. I mean, what a decorated career he had at UCLA from 1971 to 74. Will, back then, freshmen weren't allowed to play on the varsity team. And so him and Jamal Wilkes, went 20-0 as on the freshman team in 71. And then, of course, 72 and 73, they're back-to-back 30-0 national championship seasons that culminated in that iconic championship game in 73, when he went 21 for 22 from the field against Memphis State. And then it spilled into 74, where obviously the 88 game win streak went, midway through the 74 season. And, Bill Walton always was so heartbroken over that loss at Notre Dame, that snapped the 88 game win streak, a game UCLA kind of had. And unfortunately, they couldn't quite finish the three-peat. But he finished 86-4 at UCLA, 3-time National Player of the Year, 2-time MOP, 3-time, All-American. I mean, just unbelievably decorated career at UCLA, and also just was so involved in the campus community, the advocacy, it was the heart of the Vietnam War protests, and he was just so ingrained in terms of just civil rights and just everything that came with being a Bruin at that time. And then obviously he transferred over to the NBA, was part of that iconic, 77 Portland Trailblazers team that came from 2-0 back against the Dr. J 76ers and won that championship. And then obviously had a litany of injuries, with the back and with the feet, and just could never quite stay healthy, but found a way to kind of stay healthy, and then was sixth man of the year in his second act on that 86 Celtics team, which is regarded as one of the truly great teams of all time. So to be a two-time champion, to be a league MVP, to be one of the greatest college basketball players of all time. And it just shows today, Will, how many, the outpouring of just positivity and prayers and love and support. I mean, you had the Blazers say things, you had the Celtics say things, you had the San Diego and now the LA Clippers say things. Obviously, UCLA is going to do a really big memorial here in the weeks to come for Bill Walton, but just a truly iconic, legendary Bruin is now without us. And the one thing, Will, I was really sad to hear it this morning, but I was reflecting and I couldn't help but think of the irony, because he loved the Pac-12 so much. When he said the Conference of Champions, that isn't it so ironic that he passes the last year that the Pac-12 stayed together, and almost in sort of this poetic way where it would be hard to see Bill Walton commentate on, kind of the Big Ten network or things along the lines of the Big Ten. And so it just shows how much his heart was in the West Coast and in the Pac-12. And so I thought that was really ironic and sort of some poetic, irony in terms of how that all played out. But an incredible individual on the court and then off the court. And they say, Will, you're sort of measured in your life by what people say about you when you have passed. And in that regard, if today is any indication, any evidence, man, how respected, how loved, how revered was he all across the country and all across the world with the outpouring of support. So it's a sad day, obviously, to be a Bruin, but a very proud one as well, because you had someone that just loved UCLA so much, bled the blue and gold, rocked it everywhere he went, was so proud of it, and epitomized it in every walk of life, and left an incredible legacy.
Yeah, and it was just somber for me because, he's just a one of one. Like, you can't replicate what Bill Walton brought to the broadcast booth, to the playing days, the personality, the character he was at the end of the day. And I mean, I was going through the clips, man. I mean, the all-timer for me, I remember throwing on a late Pac-12 basketball game. It was UCLA against Washington. And he's describing to Dave Pasch what would happen if a bear fought a husky in the middle of the game. He's like, well, the husky would be gnawing at the bit, like the claws of a bear, and the bear would be pawing that thing away. And Dave Pasch kind of just stops and goes, "What are we talking about right now?"
Yeah.
And Walton had that kind of mind where he had so much knowledge on so many different things. The all-timer too. I mean, I was a young kid in Arizona, playoff series for the Phoenix Suns. He compared Boris Diaw to Beethoven and romanticism, of life. In one segment, I was like, how do you even respond after somebody says something like that? But it just shows you how knowledgeable and how full of life this guy was in so many regards. I mean,
no doubt, Thriller, no doubt. And he was so funny with the hyperbole, to your point, right? Where it was, and sometimes he'd say things and he would drive people crazy too, where, he would say things that was the single greatest rebound in the history of Milwaukee Bucks basketball, just the how he would sort of say things. That was one of the 3 worst plays, in the history of the shot clock era, and he would just sort of throw that in there. And Dave Pasch had this unique ability to almost speak Walton, and like they had this great sort of interplay together with each other, but also Thriller, people forget that Walton was such a huge piece of that NBA on NBC team, that covered the regular season and the playoffs in the 90s, kind of that iconic, with Marv Albert and all of those guys, and Snapper Jones, and Bill Walton was there. Throw it down, big fella, So Walton was a huge piece of sort of basketball growing up, not just as an iconic player, but he was the guy that you were listening to 1 of 5 or 6 every weekend, back in the day when it was those NBA on NBC triple headers, sometimes it was quadruple headers on NBC with the playoffs and all of that stuff with the rivalries. And so it's a huge part of an era is in so many ways lost. But the unique part about Walton was he was attached to so many different eras, to your point, because he was such an intelligent mind, and also because he was just so young at heart, and all his, passion for the Grateful Dead, and, the documentary on ESPN of just his life and where it all took him, and just, a life certainly very full lived.
Yeah. And I think, that's what kind of put me off guard with him passing away. He's so young at heart. You put that so well. That it's just, you forget this guy was, into his 70s at this point, had been battling some cancer from what we know. But, I think that's the one thing I took away from today is like, you just never know when your time's going to go. Be good to those around you. Today I kind of was debating whether to go get, and this is as dumb as it is, I was debating whether to go get a burrito from Cervitec. I'm like, am I going to go there? What am I going to do? I was like, you know what? I don't know when I'm going to go. I'm just going to go get this burrito because I want it right now. And it's just, Bill Walton would want me to get this, as stupid as that sounds. Just do what you like, respect people the right way. And no one is more of a model of that than what we've seen in sports industry than Bill Walton himself. So a rest in peace to the great Bill Walton. He will surely be missed in the hearts of UCLA fans, a guy that is truly on the Mount Rushmore of UCLA athletes. I think up there with Jackie Robinson, Arthur Ashe, and Kareem himself. Just an incredible guy. And man, UCLA, the fan base, our hearts go out to you guys for everything that, you guys have said about Bill and everything that we've seen on social media. So sad day. And we had to start this podcast off, especially a UCLA one, memorializing the great Bill Walton. There were some positive news coming out this weekend. And I'd argue it's probably the biggest commitment of the early Deshaun Foster era. Madden Iamaleava coming to UCLA, 4-star quarterback, and we've had so many trends of quarterbacks in Southern California that have been very talented, that have spurred not only the likes of USC, but UCLA over this past decade plus. I mean, the Bryce Youngs, the CJ Strouds, some of these guys went elsewhere to kind of, fulfill their professional hopes and their lure of making the NFL. That just has not really happened in the history of California. If you look at, these guys that are being developed here and, back to your Josh Rosens and your Kevin Princes and whatever it may be for UCLA, right? So getting Madden in a way signifies to me that UCLA is closer to being back than anything else I've seen this offseason. And once the quarterback position is so big, Madman, that like once you get that puzzle piece figured out, the rest of it kind of comes into shape and you can kind of place the pieces around. Talk to me on what your opinion is of how big of a commitment this is for Madden to come to UCLA at a time where we've got a new coach coming in here and we're kind of finding our footing in the Big Ten.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it best. Every great coaching regime and era, you need that first anchor recruit, the one guy that believes first. It's sort of I don't know if you remember that old video of how to start a movement, where like one guy gets up and starts dancing on the park. And then like the second guy comes and dances next to him. And then everybody starts dancing, right? It's like when you start that movement. And so Madden is that first guy that's up there now dancing. You need that first one, those first two to start believing, and then the wave starts happening. And so I think this is a huge day in UCLA football moving forward, that Madden believes so much in Deshaun Foster, what Eric Bieniemy brings, and what the future can hold for this program. Will, you said it best. I mean, there's been a dry spell with both LA schools, frankly, in terms of being able to retain top flight quarterbacks literally from, their backyards. I mean, when you're talking about the likes of Mater Dei and St. John's Bosco and just that whole Orange County belt, I mean, literally the Alabamas and the Ohio States and the Clemsons have been just plucking, these guys over the last 6-7 years. And so the fact that Madden, given what he brings to the table, he's an athletic kid. You can see the ball comes out of his hands very effortlessly. There isn't a lot of air underneath his ball. I mean, there's a zip to it. He's got a really quick release. There's a lot to love there. I think Eric Bieniemy is salivating in terms of getting him into the lab and working with him. You're looking at a situation here where he could be the starter from day one. I mean, we could be looking at kind of a Rosen-like situation where as a true freshman, he could be starting. And it's also just setting up what a dynamic quarterback room it's going to be, Will, next year. Obviously we are expecting a great year from Ethan Garbers, and then he will move on to the next level, hopefully. And then you look at where this quarterback room is with Madden, with Duncan, with Justin Martin, with Hasselbeck, with all of these guys, Davis. I mean, there's 5 guys now in this room that it's going to be a quarterback battle, the likes of which we have not seen in UCLA football for 30 years, since back in the days of Wayne Cook and Tommy Maddox in the early to mid 90s. And so it's just so exciting where this is potentially going to go. And now Madden, now becomes kind of that super note, right? It's sort of that LeBron James like concept where now that Madden is there, now are wide receivers in his class going to want to come? Are running backs in his class going to want to come? Are linemen going to want to come? And now this domino effect takes place. So massive day for Deshaun. And again, Will, it just sort of reconfirms everything that he's kind of been telling us. I mean, that I really want my coaches, my positional coaches, my coordinators, my assistants to really focus on development, focus on the craft of each of the individual positions, focus on scheme and strategy and X's and O's. I got the recruiting. I mean, that's something he's been telling us sort of in confidence time and again here, Will, and it's just showing. He just has such a confidence that he's going to be able to recruit the guys that he needs to, given his unique understanding of the game, given his ability to sell UCLA, and given where this team is going to go in the Big Ten moving forward. So it's just really exciting and very encouraging that he's able to come out of the gate so quickly and get such a prized recruit.
And man, I think if he enrolls early, like most of these top quarterback prospects do, this guy was offered by multitude of SEC and Big Ten powers. I mean, this quarterback competition, you kind of alluded to it a little bit. This year's set, Garbers, if healthy, is the guy. No questions asked. He's got the reins. He's got the keys to the car that's going to lead the UCLA hopefully to a big-time bowl game if everything goes well. But you look at who's coming back next year, man. I mean, we loved Luke Duncan out of spring ball. Justin Martin, for all intents and purposes, will be back next year fighting tooth and nail for that starting spot with Duncan. You add DeMarcius Davis, who came down from Washington, former Kalen DeBoer recruit, 4-star in his own right. And now you get Madden Iamaleava coming through there. I mean, my goodness, this is going to be showtime when it comes to the quarterback room next year. I don't think you can ask for a more loaded quarterback competition than what UCLA is going to have in the Big Ten next year. So, Madman, I think we got to hit every single spring practice next year. Just to
oh my God! Can you imagine? You and I are going to be there. We're going to be looking at the way, and Thriller. We didn't, Hasselbeck too. You got to throw him in the mix as well. And we're going to be in spring practice. We're going to be looking at how these guys tie their shoes, like how low the shorts are. We're going to be looking at how they, sort of drink the Gatorade. I mean, it's going to be that sort of at that level of detail. We're going to be scrutinizing them because it's just going to be that intense a competition. Will, it was such a different feel in spring practice. This go around, Garbers just felt like he had total command, just a very different aura. Next year, and I'm so excited to see how Deshaun behaves in this sort of open competition, how Bieniemy is going to behave. Can Bieniemy get even more intense? Probably, but I don't even know what that looks like. My goodness. And so it's just going to be fascinating to see in 25 how this quarterback competition plays out. It's really going to be dynamic. And I think the key now in so many ways is retention. You want to at least be able to get to a place where these guys are competing in 25 in spring. Because now we're just sort of in this world, Will, everyone's looking, and now everyone's realizing, hey, okay, this UCLA is going to be 5 deep at quarterback next year. So if I get an opportunity maybe to play, right away, or where it's the roster is not as deep, it's a little bit thinner, I have an opportunity to start right away. Do I go there? So now the question becomes retention, and how do you keep these guys bought in for the year so then you have this very dynamic competition and truly have your signal caller of the future win the job and then be set up for success for the next 2, 3, 4 years.
I think you made an awesome point, too, when it comes to having a elite quarterback in the fold now. When you have an elite quarterback, you have a chance to be an elite team, period. So when you can secure that big commitment from that big position, the dominoes start to fall at the other ones. Offensive line want to block for 4- and 5-star quarterbacks, right? Wide receivers want to catch from the best quarterbacks around. And running backs, they want to be out there, supporting, blocking that quarterback in different situations, maybe punching it in on the goal line after a nice drive their quarterback led them on, take some of the pressure off the running back position. So you have just so many different things with the quarterback position. And UCLA, with Bieniemy as the coach, the guy that, played a huge part in developing Patrick Mahomes to be who he is today, the best quarterback in modern day football, man. This could be the beginning of the tides turning for UCLA and awakening the sleeping giant in Westwood that we've talked about for so long with this podcast. I think we got to sign off with that, man. Any parting thoughts on this Memorial Day weekend after the tragic loss of Bill Walton and, the very encouraging commitment from Madden Iamaleava?
Yeah, Will, I just want to wish all of our viewers and listeners and fans, just hopefully they had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend and celebrated it with friends and family and good times and good barbecue and outside and had a wonderful time. And here we are just a few days now removed into June. And, before we know it, we're kind of inside of 100 days until UCLA football is going to kick off on August 31st in Hawaii. So this thing is getting closer and closer. It's an exciting time. And I think what's really unique is that there's this convergence of factors now that's coming into play that's really benefiting UCLA. You've got that coach that we've talked about was, in that Donahue-like ilk, the guy who wants to be there for 20 years, where it's the calling. We got that. Now we got a guy with that staff, has the ability to recruit and really understand the value proposition of UCLA. We got that. Now we're starting to kind of get the fan engagement and the fan excitement again, because look, UCLA alums, 660,000 strong, vast majority of which are in California and the majority of which are in Southern California. So they start coming out, they start engaging, they start supporting in every way. We're starting to get that now. And then finally, you're going into a world where the playoff is 12 teams, and then soon enough, it's going to be 14 teams. You don't have to be perfect in the regular season. You can lose 2, you can lose 3. You can find yourself, and then you can get hot and go on a run, much like March Madness, which I think is perfectly suited for UCLA football, where when you bring all of these guys together, when you're more of a development program, you have more time to be able to do this and then go on a run and potentially win it all and win big things moving forward. So everyone should be really excited that this convergence of factors now is finally starting to come together. And if all that recipe and all those ingredients kind of coalesce properly in the bowl, look, we've said it all along. There is nothing this program cannot achieve if it sets its mind to, and we're headed that way. So lots to be excited about. and so much more to come here with us, Thriller, over the course of the summer.
So much more to come. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to the Bruin Bible, checking us out on Fridays, ESPN Radio 1090 The Mighty here. Bruin Bible, we are officially out. Happy Memorial Day and salute to our service vets out there that support the Bruins and everybody else within the entire.
How about Captain Crunch's Crunch Berries with breakfast?
Whoa, Dad, we're on.
Crunch Island. It's Jean Lefoot.
And he stole our crunch.
Quick, the zip line.
He's getting away.
Throw our last crunch berry. No! No one steals my crunch berries.
I think you mean my crunch berries. Choose your own crunch venture with Cap'n Crunch.